Hey folks, today we're covering Tinto Flavor 38 and this is going to cover Portugal. As Pavia says at the beginning here, this is a tier 2 country, a very interesting realm to play. If you keep friendly with Castile and later Spain, you're going to be able to be very safe on the edge of Iberia, and then you could do some colonizing, maybe you want to do trade, lean into these things that Portugal did a lot of. It's a very good country to learn those side of things. It was in EU4, I think even more so in EU5 with how trade works. It's going to be a very fun country to play as for your initial trading and colonization campaigns. But as he says here, there's over 60 unique events, a lot of content assets for this realm. And as you launch the game, as you go to choose your realm, you'll see this description giving you a recent history of what's going on in Portugal and what you might want to do in the near future. Next, you can see the graphical version, the flag, the name of the realm. They are a monarchy, they are a landed nation. They have over 60 events, as he just said. And you can see the king here, King Alfonso IV the Brave. 70, 45, 80. Yeah, it looks like he's a pretty good character. Primary culture is Portuguese. Primary religion is Catholicism. They have 67 locations, 1.3 million people, 32 gold, 18,000 manpower, and 16 ships. And as always, we see a breakdown then of those cultures. As you can see, Portuguese is the highest, 92% almost. That is the primary culture. As we have seen in other realms, that isn't always the case. You can have a primary culture that isn't actually your largest culture, but in this case, very much so. It is very Portuguese in this era. And then below that, the religion, Catholicism, 92%. And then very similar to the rest of Iberia, some Sunnism and Judaism there as well. So predominantly Portuguese Catholicism, but there are some other cultures and religions in your realm. And speaking of the realm, here it is. This is Portugal, exactly how we would expect to find it in this era. Castile next to it, again, very safe there on the coastline. You're not likely to get attacked by anyone else. Next, you can see a more zoomed in version, so less of the political side, although you can see the border with Castile. But you can see more of your realm, more of your provinces, and what you might want to be doing with them. Next, we're going to be showing the estates. So you can see the crown, nobility, clergy, burghers, and commoners, and a bunch of the privileges that they have already. And then Portugal has its own special version of monarchy, Portuguese monarchy, a government reform, tax efficiency plus 10%, sailors plus 10%, leaning into that seafaring nature that they had. And a lot of the content we'll see today is based around ships, sailing, and building ships, all that kind of stuff, and exploring and trading, and we'll get to that shortly. Navy maintenance as well, minus 5%, so making your navy that little bit cheaper as well. Next, they're going to show us the unique name for the Portuguese Parliament. You can see that on the screen now. It was called 2 years ago, some base support for the king, and then obviously that plays out the same as the Parliament does elsewhere in the game. Next, you can see they have 2 works of art, the Covenant of Christ, which is a masterpiece work of art, which is very nice, and then a monastery as well, regionally renowned, and that is going to help you with your cultural side of the game. And then next, as discussed last week, we're going to see the ships that are available for Iberian countries, and all of these are unlocked by different advances in the game, so it depends if you want to go this way. Maybe you will play a more land-focused Portugal, but for this, they're going to show us the first 3 ages of the Caraval, so obviously in age 4, 5, and 6, these will get even better, but the first one here that is available for you straight away is the early Iberian Caraval, and you can see how good this is. They have updated these graphics again this week. Last week they showed us this, but the icons were missing. I really like now how this UI looks. I think it's a lot easier to read. I suppose you're going to have to hover over those icons the first few times you play just to figure out what they mean. But once you know what they mean, you can now look at a glance. I think it makes these tooltips a lot easier to read, a lot more legible. There's way less text on there, so it kind of makes it easier to at a glance see how good something is, and you can see the battle statistics and then also the logistics of this ship as well. So the first bit obviously for your fighting, the battle statistics, and then the logistics are more like how far it can travel, how quick it is, how good it is at transporting people and resources and that kind of thing as well. And then you can see the monthly maintenance and the construction cost as well. In the second age, it becomes the Iberian Caraval. You can see again the battle statistics, logistics, the cost, all that kind of stuff. Gradually getting better and better as your eras progress. As you get that technology, it is getting better and better. The next version in the third age is the square rigged Caraval. And again, the stats getting a little bit better for it as well. And then on top of this, there are 2 types of galleons, one from the Age of Discovery and one in the Age of Reformation. You can see the early Iberian galleon here. And again, this is more battle focused. You might be able to do some exploration with this. You might be able to go out in the world, do all that kind of stuff. But this is a heavy ship, more for fighting other nations, protecting your empire. And then after that, in the 4th age, the Iberian galleon arrives, and you will upgrade to this. Once you have the advances, again, making your navy more powerful. In this era, you're probably going to be fighting other nations potentially. Keep your colonies together. If they're disregarding the Treaty of Tordesillas, which was covered earlier this week, you might want to be a little bit more forceful, take those colonies off them, and then have a good time with your colonies and trading. And then next, they're going to show us some unique advances for Portugal. The first one is the Battle of Arique. This is available in the Age of Traditions. Let me know if you've heard this one before. Infantry power plus 10%. As I say every time, it's kind of funny that nearly every realm has plus 10% infantry power, but I guess you're going to unlock these at different times, so it will give you an advantage, at least for a short amount of time. And there are obviously some realms that don't have this. It just seems like most of the ones we see do have one of these infantry power modifiers for plus 10%. The next one is the establishment of the Portuguese Navy. This is available in the Age of Traditions. Navy movement speed plus 10%, monthly naval tradition 0.10, making your navy faster, and then the navy tradition will make your navy even better at fighting as well. The next one is Pursuing the Waves. This is available in the Age of Renaissance, Exploration, Monthly Progress 0.10. So they've covered this in a previous dev diary. This is where you will hire an explorer, and then he goes out into the world, into a certain area that you've asked him to, and then he'll come back and say he did discover Brazil, and then here are the maps, here's what's going on there, and then you'll send off colonizers to claim that land yourself. You can see here, this says colonial range plus 20%. If you've not played EU4, this just means you can colonize well 20% further away than you could do previously. The next advance is the Bombardeiros, definitely how you pronounce it. This is available in the Age of Discovery, heavy ship power plus 10%, blockade efficiency plus 25%, leaning into that naval side of the game again, really helping you with your warfare with the blockade efficiency, and then obviously the heavy ship power just makes your ships better. The next advance is the Feitorías. This is available in the Age of Discovery, trade advantage plus 10%, trade range used oversea minus 10%, also unlocks a building of the same name. They're going to show that in a minute. So this is obviously around trade, makes your trade more powerful, and then as well your trade range is better over the sea. It's kind of weirdly worded with a percentage, but that basically means you can stretch your trade 10% further over sea versus like how far you could trade on land as well. And then the building that does unlock, you can see that here. This is a trade building, maritime presence 0.02, trade advantage plus 1, again building into that, and then the production efficiency plus 5%. So you can build things better here, also increases your trade advantage. I imagine you could build this maybe in your colonies as well. Once they're up and building, you might be able to build this, improve some things locally, and then increase your trade and maritime presence in that area as well. The next advance is available in the Age of Reformation, monthly army tradition 0.05. So not everything is naval based. This is improving your army as well. The next one is Colonial Governors. This is available in the Age of Absolutism, loyalty of subjects plus 10. You have these colonial nations that are attached to you. This will increase their loyalty by 10. They are next week going to cover how revolutions work with your colonies. So this is a very apt one to be showing off today. The next advance is available in the Age of Revolutions. This will unlock a special infantry unit for the Portuguese. You can see that on the screen now, again, using that card system they're using for the naval side, also used on the land side as well. You can see the battle statistics, the logistics of this, the maintenance and the construction of this army. They look pretty good. You're probably going to be building quite a lot of these in the Age of Revolutions, really protecting yourself potentially against other realms, and then obviously revolutions happening potentially in your colonies, all that kind of stuff as well. And with that, that is the end of the structural content for them. As they say here, all of this, when it comes together, allows Portugal to become a dominant maritime and colonial power early in the game. But as you might know at this point, this is not gifted. A player playing as Portugal has to research these advances, build these ships, build a strong enough economic power base that allows for their exploration expeditions to take place. If succeeding in this, the potential wealth and power that could be achieved will greatly return on these investments. So again, it's not you play as Portugal, you're destined to have these colonies, you're destined to have this amazing trade empire. You are going to have to invest in it, build up your money, fund these expeditions. They come back, yes, they find these areas. You can then build them up, have these colonial empires, and then try keep them in line with you as well. So again, very similar-ish to how it works in EU4, but it does feel like you have to put more effort into these different areas of the game in EU5 to get those rewards out of it. It isn't quite as easy. You don't have those mission trees that really kind of push you in that direction. You do have to still work for it. And again, you could just ignore all of this and just be a land-based empire, go up against Castile, maybe get some alliances, take Castile out, own Iberia as Portugal, and then keep expanding into Europe. Whatever you want to do, you can do in this game by the looks of it. With that out of the way, though, they're going to talk about the event side of Portugal. So very attached to that, they have a lot of narrative content for Portugal. While the first century or so has more events based around the court, its development and intrigue, around the Age of Discovery, this will expand out into exploration and colonial lands, the golden age of Portugal. You can see the first event here, transferring University of Coimbra, and this is all around moving the University of Lisbon back to where it should be. It had been moved previously. Do you want to move it back to Lisbon? Or do you want to say, let's not bring these conflicts back to our realm? The next event is around Inés de Castro, and they are returning to court. So one of the Castilian courtiers has recently arrived in our court. She is said to be the lady-in-waiting to a bride of one of the most important councillors in Portugal. This alone is not of much interest, but what is most interesting is that the Crown Prince has taken a liking to this new person. You can see here, this will mean they will move to the Kingdom of Portugal, and then following on from that, you'll get a love affair between this new courtier of one of the councillors and also the Crown Prince of Portugal. Surely they will get bored of each other. Well, as you can see, she's going to get pregnant. You're going to lose prestige, lose legitimacy, and then after that, there's a lot more events based around this. So really some historical stuff coming into the game, and then how that will play out if you want to go down that road, or if you want to say like, no, let's not do that. Let's focus on something else in the game. And then you can see how that kind of plays out in your campaign. The next event is All Eyes Upon Sabta. In order to establish a proper base in Maghreb, Maria has been consulting the court as well as her war council. All ideas seem to align into conquering Sabta. To accomplish that, we can go to war with Morocco and claim this rural settlement. As you can see below that, you can see that blue background text. That is the historical reasoning behind this event. We will go forth and conquer. Perhaps we can gain some control through peace instead if you don't want to go the historical method. You can see the next event is the Portuguese ordinances. This is a complex web of canon, Roman, and country laws. Is providing to be a particular issue for the governance of the kingdom. We will go on with these reforms, or we are not ready to make these changes yet. If you do make these reforms, you get this government reform implemented. Minimum tax plus 5%, change policy cost minus 20%, tax efficiency plus 10%, admin efficiency plus 10%. Why you would not want to do this is beyond me. It looks so good. They do say here this is the first stage of this. It can get improved later on. And how might that happen? The printing press and the Portuguese ordinances. And this is around the printing press coming into your realm, and it gives you a golden opportunity to streamline the distribution of these new laws. And you can see 161 gold in this example. Modifiers for the Portuguese ordinances will be modified by 50%. However, the amount of paper that a population demand will be doubled. So if you don't have access to paper that easily, if you haven't built up that side of your empire, if you don't want to import it through trade, you might not want to do this because your population will get unhappy, and then that's going to cause you problems as well. So it is a decision here if you want to get those nice bonuses, but do you want to lean into this paper production and really help keep your population happy as well? The next event is São Jorge da Mina. This is around the exploration of the Gulf of Guinea, and they've encountered a group of natives. Though such occurrences are rather common, this one is noteworthy because they're all too happy to trade gold. We will continue with this trade. We will find another source of gold. Obviously, build a colony there and then just take the gold for yourself. That's probably what's going to happen. The next event is called the Ribeira dos Naus, definitely how you pronounce it. And this is all regarding the fact you're building all these ships for all these adventures you're getting up to. Maybe you need to build a proper shipyard. Again, this is based on historical Navy dockyards that they did build. This will help us. You can see the building in the next screenshot. Monthly sailors plus 20, shipbuilding capacity plus 2. That means you can build plus 2 ships at the same time. So in this location, you'd be able to build at least 3 ships if you already had some kind of dockyard here. And then obviously you can build ships as well. The production method, you need that to make sure it's running efficiently, and then you can really start pumping out those ships, really helping you with your exploration and your trading as well. The next event, you've probably heard of this guy, Christopher Columbus. He wants to find a route to India, and this navigator has come to you and said, hey, I could do this for you. Just give me some money and supplies. I'll find that route. And obviously, what did Portugal do? They said, nah, it's all right. Don't worry about it. And then he went to Castile and then obviously found that route. So the historical option for this is reject his proposal, say, no, don't worry about it. And off he goes to Castile. Or you can hire Christopher Columbus and then see how history would change if that had occurred. The next event is Vasco da Gama offers his services after Columbus. I think they realized, hey, maybe we made a mistake with that. Maybe we should hire some of these explorers. And Vasco da Gama, he came from a minor house of the Portuguese nobility, and he rose through the ranks of a holy order. He's now offering his services to the crown to further explore towards India. And again, that blue background text telling you what historically happened. He will serve as well. The next event kind of linked to that, explorers reach India. Our explorers have reached India and are now eagerly engaging in small-scale trade with the locals, and that is something that will grow later on in your campaigns, and that is glorious. Casa de India, we need to efficiently oversee and administer the Portuguese interests and possessions in India and Africa, and this is about making sure you can do that. This unlocks a government reform that you can see next. Trade advantage plus 10%, loyalty of subjects plus 5%, subject income plus 2.5%, monthly progress towards mercantilism 0.10. So really leaning into these colonies you're trading, bringing all that wealth back to Portugal, and then you could just keep reinvesting it. Maybe you'll invest that in an army and maybe go crazy in Europe. You're going to have a lot of options to do here. The next event is the Governorate General of Brazil. Ever since we established our captaincies in our colonies, we were troubled with their administration, and you could establish a new policy, or you could say we do not need it. If you do establish it, you can see this. This is a policy within the colonial policy law system. This will give you modifiers: income from colonial subjects plus 50%, monthly colonial migration plus 50%, monthly progress towards centralization 0.05. So as you can see from this, it will make your colonial nations linked to you, give you a lot more income, also will make more people migrate out to them, which again will make them even more powerful. I guess the problem with this is if you migrate a lot of people out to your colonial possessions, ultimately they might get so powerful, they'll get some revolutionary ideas, and as we'll see next week, the fallout from that. Maybe Brazil or somewhere might expand themselves large enough to then escape the power of the Portuguese and play as that realm later on in the game. The next event is another explorer, Ferdinand Magellan, as we would know them in English, but you can see the Portuguese name for him there. So he approached the court wishing for support on one of his most ambitious ideas, wishing to amass a number of ships for a grand voyage to circumnavigate the entire globe. Again, the blue text there, historically what happened here. Did they learn from Columbus? No, they didn't. They didn't fund this guy, and he went off to Spain, and we all know what happened then. So let us remove him from the court immediately, and off he goes to Spain. Or you could say rejecting such ambition would be quite a waste. So again, in this game, you can play it out historically, always choose the historical options. This would actually harm you in some ways, but you can say, no, that was a silly idea. Why don't we fund him? And see if we can get up to the same level of adventures being funded by the Portuguese. The next event is all around an epic poem that recollects the fantastic voyages of our countrymen towards the lands of India. And then you can say, this is great. You'll get a work of art, and then you can put that on display, and that will help the cultural side of your game. And with that, guys, that's the end of the Portuguese Tinto Flavor. Let me know what you think about this. This is only some of the content. This isn't everything that's coming. As Pavia said at the beginning, over 60 events, a bunch of unique content for them as well, and then you're going to be able to play this out in so many different ways. I'm sure many of you will go with the colonies or the trading or both. They kind of synergize together quite well. I wonder if there's going to be some achievements around that as well. I'm sure there will be a couple. So do let me know what you think about this. A lot of cool units here, the ship side of things as well, and then you can have all these famous explorers. See if you want to recreate what the Portuguese did, or maybe be that little bit smarter, although ultimately it didn't really harm them too much, did it? Although they could have been even greater, I suppose. If they had funded Columbus, if they had funded Magellan, maybe they'd be even more powerful than they were in this era anyway. As you can see at the end, next week we're getting 3 more dev diaries. On Wednesday, we're getting some mid-game America-related situations once again, the Columbian Exchange and Colonial Revolutions, but that's going to link into a bunch of other nations as well, because they are all affected by those systems. On Thursday, we get our second proper dev diary. That is going to be on government, politics, and estates. So if you're new to the game, if you don't know how those systems work, or if you just want a refresher, that's going to dive into all of those, very similar to yesterday's video, which went into population and the world and things like that. And then on Friday, the one you've all been waiting for, the one I've been waiting for, Tinto Flavor about England. That is when we knew the game was coming out soon. They saved England almost for last. I imagine that dev diary is going to be quite sizable. A lot of information. There's so much to cover with England in this time frame. I wonder what they're going to pick out. Obviously, the colonies will be in there, and then I'm sure some of the feuds that happened in England, a couple of wars you might have heard of, and they're going to be played out as well in this game. So it'll be interesting to see how much content they have versus Portugal, versus these other realms we've seen. I wonder if it's going to be the most amount of content a realm has at the launch of this game. We'll find out next Friday. But as always, guys, hit that like button if you've enjoyed today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm covering all the news around EU5. I've really appreciated all your nice comments recently. I do try and give this content in a balanced manner, showing what's coming to the game. You can ultimately decide if you think this game looks good or not. I think it's looking really cool. It would be nice to see how the performance side of things is going to run. Hopefully we do get a dev diary about that in the future. But let me know what you think about this or any other content you've seen recently around this game. But we'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you all in the next one.